Oh, dang, this looks pretty important.
Dexter, call for you from the president.
Wait a minute. A new mock draft just came out?
Tell him to wait.
Just imagine telling the president to hold line one. Please hold. Your call is very important to us, but obviously not that important. Hey, everybody's the same person. That's the way I look at it. Nobody's above you. Nobody's below you. We're all equal. I don't care if you're a janitor, you're the president of the United States. We are all in this together. And that's how I feel. But if there's a mock draft that comes out, I don't know, there might be a little bit. What is cool and what's going on? I hope you guys have an amazing day. My name is Cecil. I'm doing my thing, and I hope you are as well because a new mock draft from Nick Baumgardner, thebomb.com over at The Athletic, presents himself with Arch Manning sliding in the 2026 NFL Draft. Which quarterbacks rise in round one? I don't know. I'm curious. Let's see what he has to write up about this. It just came out today. I'm ready to go. And let's find out what he's got. I don't even have time to read some of this stuff. We're just going, Ty Simpson. Here's a name that's floating around right there right now. Number one, though, let's keep it no quarterbacks for the Tennessee Titans. I'm actually working on the Tennessee Titans right now. Let me zoom in so we can see this a little bit clearer. My eyesight ain't what it used to be. Actually, I don't think I've ever really had good eyesight. But Reuben Bain Jr., the edge rusher from Miami. Actually, funny story. On my driver's test one time when I went in there, I forgot my glasses. And you know how the DMV, or here in Indiana, it's the DMV or the BMV, but you go in there and you forget your glasses. You're like, oh no, it takes like an hour to wait in line there. I literally listened to somebody in front of me. I was freaking out and I memorized what he was doing. And I went for it without the glasses. It was pretty sketchy. Don't do that. Make sure you bring your glasses if you can't see, or you will be in trouble. Titans, though, back to this year. Reuben Bain Jr., the edge rusher from Miami, is exactly what this Titans team needs. They need more pass rush. Arden Key going to contract year. Draymond Jones contract year. And both of those guys at this point not bringing a whole ton to the table. Draymond really is not a pass rusher. He's more of a run defender. Arden Key has been, you know what I'm saying, not the greatest. So they could really upgrade. Not to say Arden Key's horrible, but as a backup, I love Arden Key. I think he'd be a great situational player. As a starter, you need to upgrade. Reuben Bain Jr. would make a ton of sense. Olufemi Oladejo needs some more pass rush moves. It's going to need some time to really develop. So if you compare a Bain with Olufemi Oladejo, that would be much better. Me bringing a free agent, that edge room could be a lot better. That's what I would do at least. To the New Orleans Saints, Fernando Mendoza, I guess is what we're going to say here in a James Bond level fashion. He is the Indiana quarterback. Hoosiers got a big game coming up at the Oregon defense. And when you talk about Mendoza, he is that more prototypical size quarterback. When you look at Drake Mays, how he's playing right now, he has some of the same similarities to Drake May. The Saints, though, the thing is with this football team, we really need to see Tyler Shough before we start really comfortable. If you are picking at number 2, there's a likely chance that Shough has been thrown in there at some point this season. And you would be saying to yourself, okay, we're picking at number 2, Mendoza. If we feel confident about him here, then I'm okay with that. It really is a process that we need to see more of this football team. But clearly, it's not just quarterback that the New Orleans Saints team needs. They need to replenish some of that defense, and the defensive line has not been particularly great. They need more pass rush. They could use some more help in the secondary, clearly, as well. Kool-Aid's had a bit of a down year thus far, and it's partially the lack of pass rush, too. Overall, this team is more than just a quarterback away. Even the receivers this year have not been great. So a lot of things this team could really use in the offseason. But quarterback certainly is in the conversation. I get it. The Jets at number 3 going to Peter Woods. Not our biggest need, but Peter Woods is a really good football player. And I can work with this. I really am okay with it. I think that Woods is somebody that you pair him up with Quinn Williams on that defensive line, and it is a pick that I feel very confident about to continue to build that defensive line, which our pass rush has been a little up and down at times. It's mainly been our run defense. Our pass rush has been pretty good. It's been our run defense, and Peter Woods is a really good run defender, so I get the combination. We've really been looking for that DT2 next to Quinn Williams, too, for quite a minute. So while it's not priority number 1, and we could go out and pay a nice run defending Andrew Billings maybe type of player on free agency, Peter Woods would be a really, really nice player. So overall, Caleb Downs would be really nice too. I think Jordan Tyson would be really nice. Like all those players are enticing me in here to go out and select. On to the G-men here at number 4, Spencer Fanu, the offensive tackle, right tackle at Utah. Very much makes a ton of sense. They need offensive line like it was yesterday. This team has been trying to vie for offensive line for years. And I think Fanu would be a fantastic pick, somebody that gives you that upside. I just think if he can continue to get a little bit better with his hand technique, maybe not get off. He gets off balance a little bit at times too, but overall, like this guy has got all the fundamental traits you look for and run blocking like mentality as well to be a top tier right tackle for this football team. To the Carolina Panthers at number 5, Caleb Downs, the Ohio State. They go back to Ohio State technically because they drafted Lathan Ransom from last season. Like it was like a mid-round pick. So I wouldn't hate it. I'm sure that they're not going to say to themselves, we're going to pass up on a player that we think is a top 5 potential safety in the NFL. And not just that, but an impact player on our defense because they need help across the roster, defensively, offensively, you name it. They still need help. Quarterback could easily come into discussion, especially if you're picking top 5. You could take a look here at Dante Moore. You know, I like Darian Mensah, like Marcel Reed. I think Marcel Reed's probably going to come back for at least another season or so. Same thing with Mensah, but if Mensah does come out, I think Mensah is being super underrated right now. That guy, even though Duke doesn't have as good of a well-rounded football team, I think Mensah's played excellent. Even go back to the Illinois tape, he had to press at some moments, but overall, like other than like 1 or 2 throws, like maybe you could have taken back. I thought Mensah was really good, and he's a guy I plan on doing a video on here very, very soon. But going back to this pick here for the Panthers, you pair him up with Merrick. You got Nick Scott right now. I think he's a free agent. And as I mentioned, Lathan Ransom. Ransom can also play a little linebacker. He did that too. He could play a little hybrid role for you. I have no problem with that one for the Panthers. On to the Browns here. Lenoris Sellers. How to sell me on him for the Browns? Well, that's the big thing. It's going to be Dylan Gabriel, and that discussion is going to start heating up as he plays this week. You got Shedeur Sanders, and what happens with him? I know there's some chatter going on right now. He's been trending, so I still think both of them are going to get a chance to play this season. So we'll see both of those guys, and that's why it is hard to mock the quarterback position for teams like the Saints and for the Browns right now because they have other needs. And with the Browns, their offensive line, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's up there with one of the worst in the league. Joe Flacco's getting destroyed out there. And hey, for Joe Flacco to be seeing ghosts right now, you can tell like the offensive line's pretty dang bad. Like he's been throwing up passes that Joe Flacco doesn't normally do that sort of stuff. So that tells me the offensive line's pretty bad. And Gabriel has more legs, so he'll be able to take off and run, and that might help out this offense. I'm a little bit lower on Lenoir Sellers at this point over some of the other quarterbacks, but Sellers, you can tell, when he's on the field versus when he's not. But can he be a methodical passer? That is the key on whether or not Lenoir Sellers can develop, or if he's going to, struggle a little bit like an Anthony Richardson coming out. That development is key, and Richardson's dealt with a lot of injuries too, so that's been part of it as well. Like injuries will set you back. I don't care who you are. Dolphins, Gerard McCoy. I'm saying something. Gerard McCoy here from Tennessee, the cornerback who's yet to play this season after suffering an ACL tear in this past January, which is very unfortunate because I think he'd be a top 5, top even 3 pick. This guy's had some extreme talent. Other than the Andrew Armstrong tape, I thought he was excellent throughout the year for the Tennessee Volunteers, and I'm volunteering the Dolphins get more secondary help. Please, I don't have to raise my hand for that one because they need secondary help. They need more run defense. They're going to have to sign somebody who can, I think that's more of a veteran free agency sort of thing. Ken Grant will get stronger too in an offseason. Maybe a linebacker, still a need for them too. But secondary, offensive line still an issue, ongoing thing. Maybe a wide receiver, even Tyson could be a very interesting pick. But corner for the future makes a ton of sense. They got to find their long-term answer at corner. I mean, they've got some guys right now. But anyway, Caden Proctor, tackle Alabama for the Raiders. The big monster Goliath that is over there at Alabama had his best game of the season versus Georgia, plowing dudes. He has got manhandling ability, and I mean that in a good way. Like, that guy can move guys off the line of scrimmage. I've never, worried about that with Proctor. For me, Proctor, the thing I worry about most is his sloppy technique. He says sloppy start versus Alabama. It's the technique. He's very high in his leverage, and his hand placement and his strike timing are slow at times, and he really has to do a better job being quicker to the punch. Like, he's got good length, and his size is tremendous. I'm actually not as worried. Like, people talk about his athleticism, and they compare him to Evan Neal. He's a better athletic mover, laterally, than Evan Neal was. He's got better balance as well. He is on the ground at times, but his balance is not horrific for a guy who's 360 pounds. Conditioning, though, is a concern, and that will be something we have to see with Proctor. I actually did this mock draft pick for him, for Caden Proctor and the Raiders, but in the second round, because that's kind of Proctor's more of a end of day one, maybe. You could get me on that one. At number 8, that's just a little too high for the film. He is a good football player, and teams are going to draft the traits, so I understand that. The dude's got potential, though. I understand that. And if you talk about Genty giving him more lanes to run, go get yourself a big monster there. Keldrick Folk, edge rusher from Auburn. I almost said Alabama. We just had that. But Dallas, go ahead and get themselves another pass rusher here. I know that seems to be the actual just pick you go ahead and do since they lost Micah Parsons. I don't necessarily think it's their top need. Like, they do need more pass rush, but you got some young guys, obviously Marshawn Nealon and Ezraku, and I think Ezraku's already been making his stake out there, not just as a pass rusher, but I thought also in run defense. I mean, he's not been perfect. He's not the strongest guy. Sometimes he'll misread some lanes trying to shoot some gaps, and he'll open up a lane behind him or something. But overall, like, I think Folk would be a good pick for this team too. Maybe a little redundant with what they have in Marshawn Nealon in terms of some of the abilities that Nealon has. So maybe you're saying to yourself, okay, if Nealon we don't feel confident is going to be a true starter for us, then okay, let's go get Keldrick Folk here in the first round and help that out. But I do think secondary is their biggest need, and I really be looking like a Mansour Delane, a Keith Abney at this point. Bengals go Isaiah World, the tackle from Oregon. I'm a Ducks fan. World's okay. I don't love him as a top 10 pick at the moment. I would rather take Francis Maui Noah, and I would rather take guys even like, let me think here, Drew Shelton I'm higher on. I'm higher on Caleb Lomu. World is a guy that has good traits, and you can tell his technique has come a long way, but I still think he's another one of these dudes that really doesn't quite have the overall hand technique to really rely on. Plus, he just gets beat to the edge one too many times. And he is an athletic guy and everything like that, but he has some Patrick Paul tendencies. So I feel like he's a great guy you get on day number 2. Somebody in round 2 where you say to yourself, we can draft and develop him. So if they say we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep Orlando Brown Jr. for a season and have Isaiah World in the second round be a developmental player, then I'm cool with that. He certainly has all the traits to be a starter down the line. I just feel maybe I'm a little off on that. But for me, what I've seen from Isaiah World thus far, I think he's a little bit more of a round 2 guy and develop with the traits that he has. Moving on to the Houston Texans, Francis Maui Noah, CC Maui Noah from Miami, the Hurricane, right tackle there. I think he can stick at right tackle. I know a lot of people are more on him as being a guard. The length situation is a big question mark. We'll see if he checks in. If he's in the 32 department, okay, fine. Move him to guard. I have no problem with that. I feel like he can be just a good offensive lineman. So this is one of those picks where Nick Caserio has got to hit on offensive lineman. He has really struggled hitting on offensive lineman. He's done a great job everywhere else on the roster, but offensive line. So come on, Nick, you got this. Let's get somebody with a high floor. I think Maui Noah is that type of guy. I like this pick. Whether he's right tackle, whether he's a right guard for them, I don't care. They need to improve the offensive line. So I can get down with this one. They need help on the interior pretty bad. They have invested a tackle. It hasn't worked out. Ariante Ursary, though, did have his best game so far this season versus the Titans. Blake Fisher, we still don't know about that sort of situation. Howard's right now starting at right tackle. You had Ed Ingram at right guard. Overall, I mean, Shrugs hasn't quite looked that good. Jake Andrews, they could use upgrades on that interior, period. So I have no problem with that. Minnesota Vikings, skull. Go get Avion Terrell to help that cornerback room, even though it's been amazing this season. However, when you think about it long haul in terms of contracts and stuff like that, then getting Avion Terrell to pair along with Isaiah Rodgers would be a good 1-2 punch. Byron Murphy in the slot would be a great little trio. On to the Bears. We go Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. He's going to be an absolute baller. And for this Bears football team that could use a number 1 running back and that offense, give them more of an identity that they lack in terms of between the tackles. I think Monungai's a great runner. The problem is he cannot pass protect. So Air Love would make a lot of sense to get that 1-2 punch there. 2 the Arizona Cardinals, TJ Parker from Clemson, the edge rusher. And one, they've invested in edge so heavily. They've invested in the defense so heavily. So while, sure, I don't hate the idea of continuing to go that route, I think the offense is the problem here. Maybe they need an offensive coordinator. I'm sure Rollins is like, yeah, let's go, bring it on, TJ Parker. But either which way, I would say that you got to go ahead and help out that offense, and that would be what I would be doing. And Jordan Tyson is still on the board. How can you pass up on Jordan Tyson at this point? So that's where I would look at, or even offensive line. Now, you've had a run on offensive linemen. Do you say, all right, we're going to go ahead and take something else? I think Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson really would be very good players here. Washington Commanders, Kenyon Sadiq, tight end from Oregon. Woo-hoo-hoo. Whoa, this would be an interesting one, right? I mean, they've invested in the tight end. The problem is, of course, we've just really not seen Ben Sinnott enough to feel confident that he is the future there. You got John Bates, a good blocking tight end. You got the veteran, of course, Zach Ertz. Sadiq would be kind of fun. He would be kind of an interesting little target in this offense. Can't knock him for the player. Is it their biggest need? Probably not. But at the same time, he's a really good football player, and he's going to add another element to this offense. So I can get down with that. I can get down with a multitude of areas, whether it's defensive line, linebacker of the future, cornerback to pair along with Trey Amos and Mikey Sanders still. I think even possibly a safety is something this team could even consider down the line. Who knows, right? There are some things that this team could look at. But for right now, I mean, Sadiq would be just like one of those guys. It's like you're adding icing to that position and that offense. Now, here is probably another area. I'd probably just take Jordan Tyson, to be honest with you, and then move on from Deebo Samuel. And yeah, but if they're looking for a Deebo Samuel replacement, then I guess Kenyon Sadiq could give him a little bit of that. So it is an interesting one. On to Jordan Tyson for the Denver Broncos. This is a BPA pick. While I still think that they've got a lot of receiving talent in their offense, Franklin has a little case of the drops, and their receivers having a little case of the drops at times. But Marvin Mims, a dynamic threat with the ball in his hands. You have Cortland Sutton, who's the team's #1 wide receiver. It's not the biggest need, right? I think that even offensive line might be a bigger need. For me, I think it is. Like, that's why Connor Lew would be a great pick for them for, replace Lou Walkenberg, who is a free agent after this season. Plus, their offensive line after the season's all going to be 29 or older, I believe, or 28, 29 or older. So that's why, you may want to start investing in that offensive line. Defensive line, you could always go back there and continue to help that defense, even though the defense has been pretty dang good. A linebacker, future-wise, could be something parallel with Dre Greenlaw, who's a little banged up and injury-prone at this point, too. So that's a possibility, especially in this linebacking class. Just kind of stating a couple of the spots out there. But I think Jordan Tyson would simply be a BPA approach. I don't have a problem with that one at all. That's a great pick for where he's at. New England Patriots. Where did I get Detroit Lions from? I have no idea, but New England Patriots, Mateo Uyunglele, the edge rusher from Oregon, the Duck. He is really a great player and somebody that is just so dynamic off the edge. Number 10 there is somebody that you take note of from Oregon. Constantly makes plays in the run game. He's a disruptor in the pass game. He's a solid athlete, not most explosive. He's not David Bailey level explosive. So if you're looking for more of an explosive, bendy pass rusher, you're going to look at more of a David Bailey on the board here. But Mateo Uyunglele, get him a Vrabel guy, somebody who can play all three downs and really be a dude starter right away for this football team. Speaking of David Bailey, here he is for the Baltimore Ravens, who also need some more pass rush on their defensive line. I think it's a little more of an interior situation. Their lack of depth, too, is showing up with the injuries they've had. Unfortunately, with both Broderick Washington and Matty Buki being both on free IR now at this point, they need more pass rush on that defensive line. I would be looking at Caleb Banks here, but David Bailey is also a fantastic player. I think with their edge rushers, it's going to come down to what they do in free agency. Adafiowe being a free agent. What do they decide to do? Kyle Van Noy, getting a little bit older now. Could they bring him back on another 1 year deal? Absolutely. Could they still use more help? Clearly. Like, it is an area that they need to improve upon. It sucks because Idissa Isaac was good in preseason and got injured. He's on IR right now, so there's that. Mike Green just needs to get stronger. I think Mike Green will be fine, though. Like, I see flashes with Mike Green where I'm like, yeah, I think he's going to be a very productive pass rusher. He's just got to get stronger, and that's fine. Like, you drafted him in the second round. He's not a guy that you expect to be a year one huge, massive impact. You're drafting him for year 2 and beyond. Bailey would add another pass rusher into the fold, so I get that. It just comes down to all the guys they have. Tavius Robinson, who's a starter for them right now. So that's kind of where I'm at. We'll see what happens. Edge rusher, I don't hate it. I just think maybe interior defensive line could possibly be a bigger need. I think offensive line's a huge need for them too. Like, they got to protect Lamar Jackson better at that guard position. Rams, Dante Moore. This is from the Atlanta Falcons. They go ahead and get themselves a quarterback of the future. I've been what I was going to say. I'm like, Dante Moore's on the cover over here in the thumbnail. Where the heck is he going? He's going to the Rams to be a developmental quarterback behind Matthew Stafford for a season or so, I would imagine. I mean, Stafford's under contract for 1 more year. Depends on when he decides to hang it up and retire. he might have to retire a little bit early just because of all the injuries he's sustained. I mean, he's playing at a super high level. So as long as you can keep him healthy, which is why I think you need to invest in a right tackle and make sure you're protecting him as much as you can. Overall, Dante Moore, this would be a great pick for them because at 19, I think you're taking a guy that you can say, okay, we can sit him very comfortably for a year or two. He's got all the potential to be a franchise quarterback, and the processing is going to come up with him. And I get that. You look at the Northwestern tape or the Oregon State tape, he had a couple of misreads in that one with the coverages, or even the Penn State where he missed Dennis Sutton over there coming on a spy in that 2-point conversion. The processing isn't perfect, but I don't think it's terrible for a guy that is still developing in a super young quarterback. Overall, I've seen major improvements from the UCLA tape. Let's put it that way. So credit to the Oregon staff, credit to Dante Moore for developing and taking, putting the work ethic in there. The dude's got the potential, so we'll see what happens there. Dante Moore definitely really don't mind that one for the Rams at that value. I think it's a good value for them. Pittsburgh Steelers, Garrett Nussmeier. I'm lower on Nussmeier. Him and Klubnik, I just can't really get on board with those guys in the first couple of rounds. I think Nussmeier is more of a round 3, like a Kirk Cousins range. Take a chance on him there. See if he can develop. I totally get like he's a good processor and stuff, but the arm strength, the decision making, those things have just been too big of a problem. So he's not the most mobile guy either. So it is what it is. We'll see what happens. But for me, I'm not a first round Nussmeier type of guy at the moment. And it's just kind of where I've been at with Nussmeier. So again, I think Nussmeier is a good player and everything like that. I don't want to hate on him too much because I do think he can be a franchise quarterback. I just don't know if I feel confident in him being a first round pick. And it does have a little bit of similarities to like the Kenny Pickett type of move for the Steelers team. I'd rather go get a Darian Mensah or, once again, let me think. What other quarterbacks are still on the board right now? Because John Mateer is on the board. I mean, whether or not those guys come out, it's hard to say at the moment. But that's what I would be doing if we're just doing mock drafts at this point. You know what I'm saying? Buccaneers go Arvell Reese, one of the best players in the country right now. Arvell Reese, you can make a case that Arvell Reese has been the best player on that defense in general. And they've got some good football players right now. McDonald on that defensive line, Caden McDonald, the DT. That guy looks like he could be easily a day 2 pick. Sonny Styles could be a round 1 pick. Of course, Caleb Downs. You got a couple of corners between Matthews, Iguanosin. Maybe those guys end up being day 2 picks. The defense is pretty good. There's another, the edge rusher. Oh, what's his name? He's pretty good too. He's probably going to be like maybe a round 3, round 4 pick. So in general, like that Ohio State team's got some good defensive talent as usual. Buccaneers get themselves a beast of a linebacker in here. Love that one. I think it's going to be a nice one in there. You got a good linebackers coach, develop Arvell Reese even more, and I feel like that would be a nice little swing in there for Levante David, which hopefully doesn't retire anytime soon. Los Angeles Chargers go Dominic Orange. Okay, Orange. Woohoo! I think I did this one actually to the Chargers. Was it just yesterday? I don't remember, but not yesterday. A couple days ago. I forget where I put Dominic Orange to, but Orange is a good football player, and he's somebody that has that low center of gravity. He plays strong at the point of attack. And he just kind of seems like a fit on Jesse Minter's defense. They kind of like those type of dudes, those, smaller, stout defensive tackles. Orange fits the bill perfectly. So one thing I would say on that defensive line, you do have Taylor Tart. So maybe more ideally, and plus they also have Jamari Caldwell. They drafted from Oregon. So I would be trying to look for more of a pass rusher type. Not to say that Orange can't get after the passer, because I do think he's got some good explosion. I just don't know if he's the most creative pass rusher. Maybe I would take a chance on Caleb Banks, even with the foot injury sort of thing. That has to be vetted. I totally get that. But yeah, very interesting. And as I said, it's good to highlight some players and stuff like that. So let's go on. Speaking of highlighting some players, Xavier Chaplin from Auburn. I need to watch some tape from him this year. I've not watched any tape from Chaplin so far in Auburn, or at Auburn, should I say in Auburn, at Auburn? He is definitely got the physical traits you look for. He's probably more like 6'5", 6'6" if I had to guess. He's listed 6'7", but remember, he came from Virginia Tech, and there are going to be some reminiscent traits because teams scout off of players that they've had in the past. So are there some kind of similar traits to a Christian Darrisaw? A little bit. Yeah, definitely. He's not exactly Christian Darrisaw. I think he needs to get stronger in his lower half, but the dude has got some immense traits to his game with the athletic tools that he has that reminds you a little bit of Christian Darrisaw. And the Browns need offensive line. I'm still a little higher on guys like Drew Shelton at the moment or Caleb Lomu, but I do think Chaplin has maybe the most upside out of maybe even any of these tackles. I mean, certainly up there with like guys who expand their fan. The traits are insane. So if you can develop, man, this guy could be a top 10, top 5 tackle in the NFL with the right development. He's got those type of traits. We'll see, but they need to improve the offensive line. So I can get on board with that one. Chiefs go LT Overton, edge rusher from Alabama. Yeah, I say this all the time about LT Overton, but he just knows how to win his blocks one-on-one. He may not be the most finisher guy in terms of sack number and put up all the big-time stat sheets, but if you're talking about a Spags guy too, which speaking of Spags, he should be getting a ton of head coaching offers. I don't know how he hasn't in the past. Maybe it's just because he wants to stay in Kansas City. That's definitely a possibility. It's like, why do you mess up a good thing? He's tried it before. Maybe just didn't like it. And he wants to be a defensive coordinator, and I'm totally fine with that. He's one of the best, if not the best, in the NFL. LT Overton, though, would add another pass rusher in there with Big George and Mike Dana. So I have no problem with that one. Their pass rush has not been the best this year, and Spags has really had to dial up some blitzes, and he's done a great job of doing that. As you can tell, Lamar Jackson was constantly under duress from those blitzes. So, but Overton just wins his reps one-on-one consistently. Great football player. Oh, here's another great football player. It's Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver from USC to the 49ers. To pair along with Slick Rick and Jawan Jennings of the future. That would be an interesting combination. In this case scenario, you probably end up saying, all right, we're trading Brendan Ayuk. And similar to, I mean, when we're talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm sure Amon-Ra St. Brown was coming out there. I have no problem with it. Like, the 49ers are in a situation where the receiver position has definitely been a little lackluster at times this season because of some of the injuries. As I said before, Ricky Pearsall has been really, really good. Slick Rick. And the tight end position, George Kittle, has been injured. Now, Tonjes has been really good. I will say Tonjes, that guy came from nowhere for me. Been really nice option for them. So I think that for this football team, you're just looking at best player available. And if Mekhi Lemon's the best player on your board, then I'm okay with that. There's some other possibilities, such as offensive line in the future. Even though pass protection's been pretty dang good this year, but any which way, their run blocking hasn't, funny enough, has been more of the problem. On to the Cowboys. Denzel Boston. Oh, Commander. Washington Huskies. Here's the thing. I think Denzel Boston's more of a day 2 guy. Personally, I don't know if he's got the athleticism that I feel at this point for a first-round guy. He's a very good football player. If you're looking for a big-bodied outside type of X guy, then it makes sense. So, but in terms of this, if you want to go offense, if GP3 doesn't get re-signed, then maybe adding another wide receiver would make a lot of sense for them. On to the Seattle Seahawks, Mansour Delane, the cornerback from LSU. He is a guy that I think is really going to rise up boards this season because of the way he's played at LSU thus far. He's been super sticky in coverage. Somebody that looks a lot more like what they were being hyped up. He was being hyped up on last year. And Seattle, this is a pick that I made myself in the first round in my last mock draft because I do think that Tariq Woolen is probably going to hit the free agency market and get paid elsewhere. So adding a Mansour Delane to go along with Witherspoon would be a good little 1-2 punch in the secondary for Mike McDonald in the defense. I like that pick. I think it's a good one. Indianapolis Colts. Oh, baby, let's go. Arch Manning. Oh, let's go. I didn't even expect this one, but Arch Manning to the Indianapolis Colts. Who's done it? They did it. I'm sorry, I'm freaking out here, but Peyton Manning gotta be like, yo, yeah, come to Indianapolis. If Arch Manning comes out, though, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm not gonna say he won't come out because we just don't know. And people who are gonna judge Arch Manning because of like 1 or 2 games at the beginning of the season, it's ridiculous in my opinion. We got to give this guy some time. He is super talented. Maybe he's got a little case of the yips. He's dealing with a shoulder, injury too right now. We can make excuses all day. He's got to get better, and there's no doubt about it. But he's a guy that we need to give time of. We even kind of knew the expectations of a Manning. It's so hard when you have that type, like Marvin Harrison Jr. How do you live up to those expectations of being picked number 3 overall, right? And Marvin Harrison's son. It's like Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, you also have to compare to that because that's the last time they took a wide receiver that high. You're being compared to all of these guys. It is tough. So we have to give these guys a little bit of a break and a little bit of time to develop. We can't just say, oh, he had 1 or 2 bad games at the very beginning of his career, so he's automatically bad. There's still a lot of things with Arch Manning, and he's got some good downfield passing throws already on his film. Like he has the potential to be a very good quarterback, and it just comes down to need to stop panicking on quarterbacks right away after 1 or 2 games. Like that's just, I think it's a little hard. But going back to this one for the Indianapolis Colts, it doesn't necessarily make sense because I think Daniel Jones is going to get a contract, at least a franchise tag with the way he's playing right now. So why would the Colts? I mean, get it. If Arch Manning's there, if he comes out and he's on the board, then sure. If they franchise tag Daniel Jones, you could go ahead and draft Arch Manning, let him develop behind Daniel Jones for a season. That's fine. Like, I guess that would make sense. Very, very interesting pick. Oh my gosh. Sorry. I can't believe that one. I did not expect that one at all. Woo! Speaking of this, what's going to the Rams here? Caleb Lomu is a great pick for the Rams. I love this one. A plus. I don't really need to say a whole ton about that. I think Lomu, as a technician with his hands, wasn't perfect versus Texas Tech, but they've got one of the best pass rushing duos across that defensive line, like Gil Howard, Lee Hunter on that interior are underrated out there in general on that defensive line on the interior. I think Hunter could be a second round pick easily after when we get into this process. And then Romello Height and David Bailey, both potentially first-round picks. Detroit Lions get Connor Lew from Auburn, the center, could be their center of the future for Graham Glasgow. Makes a lot of sense. Glasgow's getting a little bit older. They've gotten it together on that offensive line. They've really gelled as a unit, and they're still continuing to go along there. But Lew would be the future, and they could definitely invest. Be the Frank Ragnow of the long haul with Connor Lew. Good football player. No problem with that one either for the Roaring Lions. Colton Hood from Tennessee, a guy that I have seen make some plays out there at Tennessee. I've not strictly watched film on him. So this is something where I'm just going to have to take his word for it. A very sturdy player could give Tennessee the best cornerback duo in college football, of course, when Jamad McCoy is back. So that is one where the cornerback room for the Eagles, could they use one more addition to the room? Absolutely. Quinion Mitchell had his best game of the season versus the Buccaneers, in my opinion. And then also, Cooper DeJean was amazing too. So they had some really good secondary play, especially in the first half. They were like lights out. But Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell, and Colton Hood, yeah, I'm down with that. If Hood's a really good prospect, sure, I'll take him here and finish up that cornerback. What a young secondary that would be. And maybe you're building yourself a little Legion of Boom for this Eagles defense. I mean, you start saying, wow, this defense becomes a strength of this football team, which it already is. Buffalo Bills to finish up the draft. CJ Allen from Georgia, a great pick for them. I think Allen is going to be that Matt Milano replacement, that workhorse in there with Terrell Bernard. If there is one area that the Bills have struggled with on defense right now, other than maybe the back end, I still think needs some work, even though I will say, I thought Cole Bishop had a good week. It is that linebacking position, and they're going to have to continue to improve there. So getting CJ Allen, who's one of the best run defenders in college football, he's just so instinctual. I don't see him miss a whole ton of tackles either. That's a big thing with him. But definitely going to be a guy that can be a green dot, even though it got Terrell Bernard. But long-term, CJ Allen, Terrell Bernard would be a good 1-2 punch. Very interesting mock draft. In this one, unbelievable. I still can't get over that one. We'll see what happens, but it is what it is. Ooh, I was going fast there. Let me know what you think on this mock draft. Do you agree or disagree with Nick Baumgardner's takes? Whether you agree or disagree, obviously everyone's got some different plays. I always love to see different player fits and stuff like that. So I always enjoy the mock and appreciate dudes putting out this stuff because I know it takes time. It takes a lot of work. It's not easy. So it's easier for me to sit here and criticize and say, oh, yeah, you suck. You're terrible. But then I look at my own mock draft and I'm like, oh, what the heck am I thinking? What am I doing? So it's always up to interpretation. Every week it changes too. That's the fun thing on mock drafts because like one week I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's balling out. Next week, oh, what are we watching? UDFA player out here? So anyway, I hope you guys have a good day. Thanks for watching. And, I hope you take it easy out there. I'll talk to you real soon. I'm going to bring a Titans mock draft up next. So let's get ready. I'm ready to blitz all night.